What happens when the naughty list is unleashed by a group of mischievous elves with a vendetta against the jolly old fat man? Can anyone stop them from overturning the balance of good and evil? And more importantly, can they do it without shedding any more blood of children?
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and we have quite the show for you. A gory romp of dark humor and nastiness that'll leave you begging for more. I wouldn't expect any less from David O'Hanlon. And if you love what you hear from him tonight, make sure you tune in tomorrow when we have the full audiobook for the novel Babysitter Massacre: Camp Carnage, written by David O'Hanlon himself and narrated by me. There'll be weekly spooky programming for you to listen to all the way up to Christmas Day, when Michelle and I will bring you our monthly spooky, as we always do, on the last Monday of the month. So make sure you don't miss that, but also be back here Friday so you can hear a brand new Strickfield novella, Christmas Arcadia, and on Saturday, we're going back to Strickfield one last time for the Christmas season, and it's going to be very special. We're going to see the return of a certain character you've all come to know and love very, very much. And I think you would experience quite a bit of rage if you missed it, if you catch my drift. And if you love what we're doing here at Weekly Spooky and you love all the content we've been bringing you this holiday season, please consider going to weeklyspooky.com and signing up for our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus shows every single month, My Undead Gratitude, and you help keep the spooky rolling into the new year. We have 91 backers. Will you join us? I sure would appreciate it. But now, my dear listeners, it's time for the story, and this one is oh so very gory. So let's listen to it together after these quick words. Scary Christmas to All by David O'Hanlon. Santa paced the ancient floorboards of his study. The world had changed. Toys were bought in stores and fewer children believed in the magic of Santa. There were many tasked with keeping the balance of good and evil, but technology was quickly pushing them all into the realm of mythology. The Fat Man had gone to extremes to keep his operation relevant long past its expiration date, but it wouldn't matter much longer. Santa chewed the end of his cigar and stopped pacing in front of the wooden chest. The lock laid broken next to the splinters of wood where the thieves had carelessly chopped open the ancient, ornate chest. The contents had been replaced with a manifesto scrawled in Tomitian script. In one night, they would undo centuries of legend and tip the scales forever, unless they could be stopped. Santa struck a match and held it to the tip of the cigar, knowing there was only one solution, only one operative elf enough for the task. "I'm freezing my fucking ornaments off," Peppermint Ray declared as he stepped into the study and kicked the door shut behind him. "This is one hell of a storm." "Nothing compared to what is coming," Santa said somberly. "I called you in for a very important assignment, Ray." "I finally get to kill Jeff Bezos?" Ray perked up. "No." "It worked with Toys R Us," Ray argued. If we take out Amazon and Walmart, they'll have to come to us for toys. We'll be back in business, full tilt boogie. Maybe next year, Ray. Santa stepped away from the pilfered chest. If there is one. Fuck me with a nutcracker, Ray gasped. The elf went to the box. His face twitched with conflicting emotions as he knelt to retrieve the manifesto from the spot that should have held one of the North Pole's 3 sacred documents. He skimmed the pages of lunatic ramblings. He's going to give out toys to the entire naughty list, Ray said. Who would do this? He calls himself Candy Pane. Sugar Plum Gary flicked a frozen booger from his finger. His bulbous nose almost glowed from the bite of the winter storm, blowing across the Great Lakes. Elves didn't chill easily, but the storm made him pull the parka tighter around him. Gary liked to eat paint, specifically orange, and had lost his job making toys long before the bubble burst for everyone else. He'd been cleaning the stables for the past 2 centuries, which he didn't mind. The reindeer never made fun of him, at least. They would have if they could talk, but they couldn't, so Gary was content with his new occupation. He stabbed his finger back into his nostril to mine another frozen snot nugget. As dumb as Gary was, even he knew the storm was their fault. It had started moments after they pilfered the naughty list and intensified with every toy they delivered along their path. Candy Andy knew it too. Gary watched the elven David Koresh saw through the security guard's neck with a serrated silver blade. Gary always wanted to be one of the Black Mittens, Santa's elite corps of assassins that purged the evilest names from the naughty list with absolute ruthlessness. Gary had never even gotten to issue a coal citation to a bad kid, let alone gotten to bump one off. Andy told him he was lucky for that. War changes an elf. And the naughty list had become the North Pole's version of Vietnam. The Black Mittens were so backlogged that they'd started working during Christmas and July just to keep from drowning in the swelling sea of evil caused by the influx of department store toys. Andy wiped the blade clean and sheathed it. His short, powerful arms cast the line of his grappling hook all the way to the top of the watchtower. Gary stared in awe as the elf scurried up the structure despite the brutal onslaught of wind. Gary darted from the bushes and waited inside the guard shack for his signal. Andy hadn't told him what the signal would be, just that he'd know it when he saw it. A moment later, the sniper's corpse crashed to the icy pavement. His intestines stretched up from his torn abdomen all the way back to the top of the tower. Gary giggled and stepped out of the shack, looking up at the meaty garland glistening with already frozen blood. He plucked it, fascinated by the wet twang it made, and waited another moment for Andy's signal. Nothing happened. Gary looked down at the body and gasped. "Oh, you're the signal!" He darted back inside and pulled the lever. Ice cracked from the hinges as the gates forced themselves open despite the accumulating snow. The vibration rattled loose icicles from the bronze lettering overhead. The elf looked up and sounded out the letters. It was easy enough, even for him. "Kill you." Gary squinted through the snowflakes to make sure he read it correctly. There it was, in big, blocky font. "Kill you." Andy rappelled down the tower and gracefully hit the ground. He waved for Gary to come through. The ditzy elf waddled between the still opening gates and pointed at the letters. "Say, Andy, what? Ah!" Andy had him by the throat before he could say another word. "I won't tell you again," he snarled. "It's Pain. Candy Pain." The name wasn't the only thing he'd changed about himself. His uniform had been replaced with leather and spikes, and around his neck he wore a heavy chain of sterling candy canes for every elf that died under his command. Each ornament was spaced out with the withering, rotten ear of a naughty child. "Sorry, Candy Pain," Gary gulped. "I was just wondering about the sign is all. It's a strange name for an orphanage." "Orphanage?" Candy Pane laughed. Krieger, Illinois, Youth Offender Unit, better known as Kill You Island. Candy Pane swept an arm at the structure. The former mental asylum was little more than a shadow through the snowfall. The tiny island had always been a place of evil and violence. It attracted it, the way rot attracts flies. Krieger sat far enough on Lake Michigan to make it the perfect place to lock away the most dangerous juvenile delinquents in the state. Many of the residents had received their lump of coal, while others had skipped straight to the top of the naughty list. Somewhere in the pint-sized penal colony was the mission objective: the Kinder Cannibal, Little Robbie Mocker. Christmas dies tonight, Candy Pane snarled. Santa's glare was hard and cold as gunmetal. Mrs. Claus sat the tray of sugar cookies next to the scales. On one side, a glittery glass ornament, and on the other, a lump of coal mined by Krampus himself. The two pans had never been level, but they never teetered too far in one direction either. Now, the coal moved lower by the minute. "No point in watching it, dear," the missus said, offering up one of the cookies. Santa took the snowman-shaped cookie and chomped the head off. "If he fails," Santa started. "Then do something about it." She slid into his lap. "The sleigh is packed and ready. Hand out as many toys as possible. Buy Ray the time he needs to destroy Candy Pane." "Ray's no match for him," Santa admitted. "I should have sent everyone." "Then we'd be burying a lot of dead elves for New Year's," Mrs. Claus said. "Ray will win this fight because he's just as much a symbol of Christmas as you are." Santa raised a woolly brow. "I don't think we're talking about the same elf." "How many wars have you delivered presents through? How many communities have come together in times of disaster, fed one another during famines, sang carols through plagues? Christmas is not a holiday. It's not presents. It's not even Santa Claus. It's an unyielding spirit," she said, coiling the curls of his beard around her fingers. "The true meaning of Christmas is love. That's why it always endures, no matter what turmoil comes. Peppermint Ray is the embodiment of the Christmas spirit." "He's a sadistic munchkin that enjoys killing," Santa huffed. "You enjoy your work, too." She kissed his forehead. "Which is why you need to get off your fat ass and get to it. Keep the scales moving in our favor, dear. Ray will do his job, and tomorrow we'll drink our eggnog from Candy Andy's skull." Fruitcake flew around the island a second time. Bonfires burned high despite the battery of sub-zero winds. Inmates danced and fired captured guns into the air in celebration. An explosion illuminated scores of dead guards, making bloody snow angels in the yard. Ray could smell burnt flesh wafting up on the smoke. He checked the magical compass, and the needle pointed straight down. "Looks like the little shits opened their Christmas presents early," he groaned. "You ready for Christmas dinner, pal?" The reindeer rumbled excitedly. "Good. It's colder than Prancer's pecker up here, and I want all the feeling in my fingers when I close them around Andy's throat." Fruitcake snorted. "Shit, you're right. We need tunes." Ray turned on the Bluetooth speaker hanging from Fruitcake's saddle. He nodded his head as the bells tinkled and the music began. The reindeer let out a long, hoarse call of agreement. "That's right, Candy Andy. All I want for Christmas is you to die." The reindeer changed course, speeding toward the island. Ray drew his scimitar and shifted to the side to hack down one of the escaped convicts. Bullets whizzed by his head. His steed banked hard, nearly flinging Ray from the saddle. A pair of teens cut loose with their festively painted assault rifles. Fruitcake twisted, flying over them upside down, and then biting one's head, while Ray impaled the other. The skull crunched loudly between the reindeer's teeth. In the chaos, Ray almost missed the incoming call. He turned down the music and answered the phone while Fruitcake flew into a group of delinquents. "Peppermint party line," he said gleefully. "Ray, Wait, is that gunfire?" Mrs. Claus asked. "Not everyone plays with the same kinds of toys." A bullet tore Ray's hat off. "Can I call you back?" "No, you cannot," Mrs. Claus said sternly. "This is going to be really hard for you, but you can't kill any of the kids on that island." Ray tugged the reins to pull Fruitcake up and away from the field of battle. 2 murder munchkins hung from his bloody antlers. Ray cleared his throat. The service is really bad with this storm and all," Ray said. I didn't hear you. You said kill all the naughty kids, right?" "None of them, Ray." So yeah, we can do that," Ray mimed, shooting himself in the head. "Why exactly are we not killing them?" "The scales have tipped too far." Her voice sounded sullen and distant. It wasn't the storm making Ray's knees shake. If she was worried, then it really was the end of Christmas. Fruitcake tilted his head to slide one of the bodies closer so he could take a bite. Ray rolled his eyes. What was done, so his faithful steed might as well enjoy the spoils. "Okay, no more killing," Ray reluctantly agreed. "What's the plan?" "Give them gifts," she told him. "Restore the image of Santa. Remind them that Christmas is about love, and love is second chances, Ray." "How am I supposed to get past them without killing them?" "Make them toys, Ray." "I didn't exactly pack for that sort of thing. I have no toys." "Improvise. You were a toy maker long before you were a killer," she reminded him. "A terrible one." "The worst," she agreed. "Naughty kids now get crappy toys, and, thanks to you, we have a warehouse full of those." "Glad I could help," Ray said, deadpanned. "The other elves are mobilizing." "What about Candy Pane?" "Silly, Ray," her voice perked up. "Everyone knows Peppermint kills pain." Ray ended the call with a pointed smile. He tugged the reins and directed Fruitcake toward the roof of the prison. A mob of children surrounded him with pilfered nightsticks, shanks, and torches. Ray hopped down from his saddle. A bigger kid stepped out of the group to meet him wielding an axe adorned with mistletoe. "We didn't invite you to the Christmas party," the boy said in a pubescent squeak. "Why don't you and Rudolph fuck off?"
Are you afraid? Good. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
Fruitcake shook his head, violently flinging the corpses from his antlers. He snorted and scraped his hoof through the snow. Blood soaked his snout and bubbled in his nostrils. "To be fair, you do have a red nose right now." Ray patted the animal's side. "Look, Dallas, we're here on important North Pole business." "How'd you know my name?" the boy demanded. "I read the naughty list like it's the Sunday paper," Ray said. "Before you chopped up your family, you made the list for smashing your sister's gerbil." The crowd gasped. "And I know you, and you, and you," Ray said as he turned and pointed at various children. He wagged his finger at one of them. "Especially you. That was some innovative work you did, kiddo." What do you want?" Dallas asked. "To give you presents." Ray threw his hands into the air. "Christmas is about second chances. The fat man's had a change of heart. Go on back to your cells before you catch a cold. Tomorrow, everyone gets gifts." "I already got my present." Dallas hefted the axe. "I said I wouldn't kill anyone else tonight, so try to run really fast so that I don't look like a liar." Ray pulled the bedazzled grenade from his pocket. 5-second fuse, 8-meter kill zone. It's doable, but just barely. The elf jerked the pin free, and the children scattered. Ray ran for the edge, knowing his stumpy legs would never get him clear in time. He jumped over the side, casting his grappling hook for the drain pipe as the device exploded behind him. He planned on crashing through the window like John McClane, only Nakatomi Plaza didn't have bars over the windows. Ray struck the iron grid and bounced off, twisting on the rope like the world's ugliest ornament. He hit it again, but caught hold. Ray pulled his dagger and used it to unscrew the grate. He kicked out the glass and shimmied inside. "Fuck me with a nutcracker," he groaned. "Whatever gets your rocks off," the woman said before grabbing Ray by the throat and slinging him into a graffitied wall. Ray's tiny form shattered the sheetrock. A female guard towered over him. Her cut-off trousers revealed thick, muscular thighs, each one as big around as Ray himself. Scalps dangled from her pistol belt that hung below a hardened 8-pack of abdominal muscles. Ray's eyes widened when he saw she was topless and pinned her badge through her left nipple. She patted a nightstick against her palm. Growls and barks came from one of the cells. 2 of the guards came out wearing nothing but dog ears and tails. "This is the Pro Bowl of fucking psychopaths," he said, struggling to his feet. "I'm Commander Thatcher," the woman's voice boomed. Long before Mindy the Thrasher Thatcher had taken over Krieger Island, she'd been a women's wrestling champion and longtime resident of the naughty list. It was no wonder Candy Pane had picked Kill You Island to deliver his coup de grace to Christmas. "Sick him, boys." The 2 guards snarled and scurried at Ray on all fours. The elf juked around one, letting them crash together with a yip. He ran down the hall, hurtling gnawed bodies, and slid to a stop as another guard dog crawled out to block his path. Only this time, it was an actual dog. The terrier, wearing a mask of leather straps, dragged a length of intestines behind him. "You're breaking the law, convict!" Thatcher shouted. "My law. Now get your scrawny ass back in your cell." "Convict?" Ray tugged at his pointy ears. "You dumbass! I'm an elf!" The terrier growled. "Gimp doesn't give a shit what gang you're in. Neither do I." Thatcher tapped the baton with each step closer. "Bad children spend the night with the dogs." The human pups stalked alongside their mistress. They gnashed their bloody teeth, slinging pink saliva with each bark. This cell block belonged to Lucifer Lloyd. Thatcher tugged at a scalp on her belt. So did this. He thought he was the devil. "Think you'll scream as much as the devil when I peel your skull, elf?" "Keep talking and I'll do it myself." Ray cupped a hand to his ear. "Hear that? Is it time to make the cookies?" "That is just a hurtful stereotype," Ray barked. "You haven't seen how hurtful I can be yet," Thatcher laughed. "I was going to give you a witty one-liner," Ray said. "Better make it a zinger, because it'll be your last words." Thatcher drew the Bowie knife from her belt. Ray backed away from her. She clanked the weapons together rhythmically. The human animals howled for elf meat. Ray continued backpedaling until he felt the wet nose of the terrier touch his hand. The dog let out a deep, throaty growl and licked his fingers. "Don't you know?" Ray said with a giggle. "Elves are one with nature, even psycho mutts like this one." Gimp nuzzled its head under his arm, and Ray gave him pets. Thatcher stopped in her tracks. "I bet I know what a good puppy like you wants for Christmas," Ray chirped happily. "Chew toys!" The terrier bolted down the corridor, launching itself at the wannabes. The second pounced on him, biting into the dog's shoulder. Gimp didn't even make a yip before swinging around and tearing out the man's throat. Thatcher stumbled backwards, slipping in the arterial spray. The dog and the remaining guard locked up. Gimp latched onto the man's crotch, drawing a high-pitched wail. "Good boy! You found his squeaker!" Ray slouched. "Shit! I feel like Michael Vick watching this." Thatcher scrambled down the hallway with the dog on her heels. Ray whistled as he skipped away from the carnage to find the stairwell. He crept down stealthily, stopping to listen at the door. He could hear a ruckus beyond and decided to try another floor. Ray could rewrite the naughty list from memory. He knew who else housed on Kill You Island. Some of them wouldn't make it easy to keep his word to Mrs. Claus. On the 3rd floor, Ray paused to listen. His ears twitched at the melodic giggling. Normal people do not giggle in the middle of a prison riot. He didn't need heightened senses to hear the screams that came next. The naughtiest inmate on the island was locked up in the basement. Ray knew that's where Payne would be going, if he wasn't there already. Unfortunately, that meant crossing the east wing of the facility. He knelt suddenly, putting his palm to the floor. Toy makers had to have an amazing sense of touch. It helped with stalking naughty children as well. Someone was coming up the stairs. His wide nostrils flared, taking in the scent. Chemicals clung to his nose hairs. He had a pretty good idea who it was, and exactly what the kid had asked for this Christmas. Ray was out of options. He slid through the door, closing it gently behind him. The 5 girls didn't notice him as they played Ring Around the Rosie with one of their dismembered but not dead cellmates. The arms and legs still twitched and danced next to the wriggling torso. Ray slumped. Bridget and Patty Booth led the sing-song chant. All together in a circle we sing the name of the most wicked thing, Mr. Jolly, the smiling king. Accept the sacrifice that we bring, Mr. Jolly, the smiling king, master of all that bite and sting. For you we kill and dance and sing. Enough! Ray whistled and clapped his hands. The girls quit dancing and the circle broke into a human chain that blocked the hall. They stared at the elf quizzically. This looks like a really fun slumber party, Ray pointed at the sacrifice. Well, maybe not for her, but you need to get to bed now. Santa is bringing everyone presents, but only if you're sound asleep when he gets here. Fuck Santa, Pat squeaked. We don't need that judgmental bastard. Yeah, like I've got 2 of those at home, Bridget added. They're called parents. We have the Smiling King, the other girls said in unison. Oh, yeah, that was creepy. Ray patted the air. Hate to tell you, but your creepypasta is a little undercooked. There is no Mr. Jolly is coming, the dismembered girl said with a mouthful of blood. It worked. Hail the Smiling King. The lights flickered in the hallway. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Ray drew his scimitar. It's a stupid internet story. What's Santa? Bridget asked. If you believe in something, really believe, it's real. Santa is real. Elves are real. Mr. Jolly is real. This is what we really want for Christmas, Pat said. Mr. Jolly, the Smiling King. A deep voice sang inside a cell. The name of the most wicked thing. The lights went out completely. The inhuman voice laughed. Ray's eyes adjusted quickly and he saw the girls jumping about giddily. Spindly fingers gripped the bars of the cell. Spiders scurried from his sleeves and over the claw-like digits. Ray heard muffled buzzing. The entity, still hiding in the abyss, retched, and the swarm of wasps billowed out into the corridor. Ray bolted for the door. He cranked on the handle. It wouldn't budge. A widow twisted gracefully on a strand of silk until it rested on his nose. Ray flicked it away and followed the string up to a shiny cufflink. A lithe, deathly hand held the door at the top. Ray turned slowly and looked up at the demonic thing the children had summoned. It glared down at him with bulging eyes, ringed with ragged flesh where lids had been cut away. Its gaunt face hung open and an oversized smile held together with rawhide stitching. The king is holding court, it hissed without moving its mouth. Sorry, Pally, but I like my creepypastas with extra red sauce. Ray swung the Tamatian sword across the creature's torso, slicing a wide gash that erupted with insects. They spilled over Peppermint Ray, biting and stinging his flesh. He dived between the monster's legs and rolled across the floor to squish as many as he could. The lights flicked back on. Mr. Jolly was gone. Ray looked around. The child cultists were slumped on the floor, covered in masses of swollen welts, and all wearing impossibly wide smiles. Ray touched a raised knot on his cheek and gingerly plucked the stinger from the center. I don't care if I did just see you. I don't believe in you, he shouted. So there! You can't hurt me! The lights flickered and Ray screamed. The door opened at the opposite end of the hall. Mr. Jolly's laughter echoed from the other side. Fucking crazy dominatrix bitch. People acting like dogs and lunatics everywhere. Now a supernatural monster. This is worse than Christmas with Krampus. Ray threw his hands into the air. What's next? The door banged open behind him. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, the little boy sang. Ray dropped to the ground as the jet of napalm blazed over him. He turned over and watched Milo the Pyro blast the nearest cell with his flamethrower. Doesn't anyone in this fucking place just want a Teddy Ruxpin? Ray kipped up to his feet. Listen, Milo. You're a pretty good kid. I mean, who hasn't burned down a house or 7, right? Do you know who I am? Yeah, you make those awesome cookies with fudge, Milo smiled. I like those. No, I do not. Ray saw the boy's eyes fill with hate. Do not just make the fudge ones. I make them all. I'm the head cookie chef. That sounds made up, Milo said. Look at these shoes, Milo. Ray wiggled his foot. Look at these pointy fucking ears. Do I look like a garden gnome? No, I look like an elf. Elves don't lie about serious shit, and there is no shit more serious than cookies to an elf. Cool. Milo jabbed the flamethrower towards him. I'm going to burn this place down now. Can't deliver cookies to a pile of ash, Ray shrugged. Health code and all that. I just signed a deal with Santa. The naughty nice thing is over. Naughty kids are getting presents now, and he knows how much you love my cookies. Then why be nice? Milo torched another cell. Because there's better presents for the nice kids. Ray waved his hand. They're still working out the details, but point is, you get cookies on Christmas morning. If you stop setting fires. The striped ones too? He asked. Ray looked over his shoulder at the open door. A spider crawled along the jamb, and somewhere down the stairs, he heard Jolly snickering. He turned back to Milo and smiled. Let me borrow that flamethrower, and I'll throw in cookies so special that only elves have ever tasted them.
There's more scares where that came from. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
Ray watched the jellied petroleum burn on the cinder block wall with a bemused grin. He blasted the flamethrower down each set of stairs to clear the path until he finally arrived in the basement. A rusted gate stood ajar next to an unmanned security desk. Bare bulbs flickered, casting shadow puppets on the walls. The heavy steel doors of solitary confinement cells were open. Smells drifted down the corridor that made Ray's stomach growl. Someone was cooking burgers. His face paled. They didn't cook burgers in prison basements. It had to be a Christmas request, and if anyone in the hole was requesting delicious, all-meat patties, it had to be Robbie Mocker. Vomit hit the back of Ray's teeth, but he choked it back down. Each cell he passed was empty. The aroma grew stronger, and despite knowing that, or who, was in those patties, Ray had to admit that the smell was exquisite. He rounded the corner, his finger tense against the trigger. Sugar Plum Gary shoved an arm into the meat grinder and hopped off the stepladder to work the crank. Ray watched the arm descend into the machine. The process made the hand wave at him as it disappeared and came out the other end in ropey, pink strands that dropped into a bowl. Gary pinched 2 balls of the meat and smashed them onto an electric griddle. He slapped cheese on a pair that were already cooking. The toaster popped noisily, almost causing Ray to torch the makeshift kitchen, prematurely. Gary, who sucked at everything, was a short-order savant. "Hurry up out there," Candy Pane barked from the last cell on the left. "He's still hungry." "Order up," Gary declared happily. "Then bring it here, Gary. It's not a present if you don't deliver it." Ray whistled. Gary turned and dropped the burger. The lights went out and Ray pulled the trigger, filling the hallway with fire and smell of burning gingerbread. Gary's immolated body bounced off the walls before collapsing, next to the table. Through the flickering flames, Ray saw the unnatural smile hiding in the dark. Mr. Jolly unfolded himself from the tight space, his legs stepping over his torso like a spider before he stood upright. Wasps crawled along his lips. Ray raised the flamethrower. "I brought my bug spray this time, Pally. You ever been burned alive? I have. It sucks. And as much as it would jingle my bells to find out how flammable you are, I got some more pressing issues." "Don't you want to smile, Ray?" the king asked. "You could smile forever." "I will be after I kill you, but let's stick a pin in that, just for now." "When you want to play, just sing." Mr. Jolly sank into the shadows. "Sing for the king, the most wicked thing." Ray let the flamethrower fall to the floor and stepped into the doorway of the Kinder Cannibal's cell. The obese child used his fingers to force the last bite of burger into his overstuffed mouth. "Is that enough?" Candy Pane asked. "Are you satisfied now? Have I granted you the buffet you most wanted for Christmas?" Robbie shook his head, and his cheeks kept moving afterwards. He was in kindergarten when he realized he liked the taste of people. Then one day in 3rd grade, he decided to turn his class into a goddamn Denny's. At his trial, he said people whose names end in vowel sounds taste better. Ray knocked on the door as he entered the tiny room. "You'll never get away with this," Ray snickered. "Get it? You'll? Yeah, you never did have a sense of humor." "I knew he'd send you," Candy Pane said. "If I give the naughtiest kids the presents they want the most, then this whole system burns. Without Santa, humans will destroy themselves through their own avarice." Ray tapped his ear. "Do you hear that?" "The sleigh bells?" Payne scoffed. "I know your corny lines as well as I know your tactics. I got some mistletoe hanging off my belt. How about you kiss me under it?" Ray pointed at the ceiling. "The storm's over, dipshit. Santa's giving naughty kids presents too, because you're right. Humans are greedy. And you're jealous of that." Candy Pane rose from the bunk. His hand moved to his dagger. "When you put love into things instead of people, it becomes greed. Christmas has shown us that, but it's shown us what they can do when they love each other too." Ray drew his knife. "For all we've got going for us, elves can't love. You're wrong, because I'm going to love gutting you, Ray." "Ray?" Robbie muttered in a spew of crumbs. "A sound!" The cannibal scurried through the discarded leftovers and clamped his teeth into Ray's leg. He chewed the muscle until he gnawed deep enough for a good, solid bite and jerked his head back with a hunk of elf meat oozing between his lips. "Yummy," Robbie said as he chewed. "I want more. I want elf burgers for Christmas. Ray limped out of the room. He tried to think of a plan that didn't involve stabbing the kid in the face, but it was the most appealing option. Gingerbread wafted to his schnoz. Ray looked at the knife in his hand. In his very long life, he'd never known Mrs. Claus to be wrong about anything. He hobbled to Gary's burnt corpse and collapsed next to it. He cut away a slab of blackened muscle and tossed it onto a single paper plate. Ray held the plate up as the Kinder cannibal sprang on him once more. "Merry Christmas!" he squeaked. Robbie snatched the plate from him and sniffed it. "I want burgers." "That is better than burgers," Ray said. That's a Gary meal." "Gary?" Robbie accented the vowel sound and took a bite. "Gary meal is yummy too. Seasoned with my secret blend of herbs and napalm." Ray snapped off one of Gary's ribs and got to his feet. "Every Gary meal comes with a prize too." Ray worked at the bone with his dagger, putting his elven toy-making abilities to task as he quickly whittled it into a figure. He stretched to hand it to Robbie. "All kids deserve toys for Christmas, and that is special because it's just for you. It's a limited edition." "What is it?" Robbie asked. "It's a superhero." "Looks like a fish." "That's because it's Aquaman." Ray rolled his eyes. "Look, Pally, last year I would have just killed you, so shitty action figures are a step up. Now how about you go back to your room and I'll make you another Gary meal." "You're fucking dead!" Candy Pane charged down the hall, springing off Robbie's back and launching himself into the air with his dagger cocked back. The light glinted on the serrated teeth of the blade. Ray jumped back, narrowly dodging the attack. Pain slashed for Ray's throat. A spray of indigo blood drenched both elves' faces. Ray twisted his dagger and pulled it free. "Guess you don't know my tactics that well after all, Candy Andy." Ray let the elf fall. Robbie crawled to him. "Candy Andy," he accented the final sound of each word. "Double yum." Andy's gurgling screams echoed down the halls as the Kinder cannibal dragged the elf to his cell for a late-night snack. Ray listened to the begging until it was replaced with noisy chewing. He pursed his lips and nodded. "Merry Christmas, Pally!" Ray limped around a pool of shadow and locked the cell. "And to all, a good night." Leave it to old Peppermint to save Christmas, but also involve a few full-body immolations along the way. Thank you to David O'Hanlon for that great Christmas story we got to share with you as the big day approaches, sooner and sooner. Remember, there'll be content all the way up to Monday on Christmas Day, so make sure you come back here tomorrow and that you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. We've got so much to bring you, and we have no intention of slowing down. And if you've ever wondered where the other spookies like yourself hang out, well, we have a group on Facebook called the Weekly Spooky Tomb of Terror. It's free to join. All you have to do is search Weekly Spooky Tomb of Terror on Facebook, and you can join myself, many of our authors, and a whole lot of fans of the show as we share memes and scary stories and all kinds of fun and creepy delights. So make sure you check that out. And again, if you love what we're doing and you want to support us directly, the best way to do that is go to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, and sign up for as little as $1 a month and get exclusive content every other week. And by the way, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, John Callan, Bobbletopia.com, Megan Hua, Julia Kirsch, Brent McCullough, Steve King, Karen Wiemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much. And if you want to hear your name at the end of our program, just go to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, and select any tier at $15 a month or higher. But now, my dear spookies, I've got to get back to work. There's so much more to be done before Christmas Day, and believe me, we have something special planned for New Year's as well. But now, I'm going to rest, if only for a short moment. So for myself, for my producer Dan Wilder, my executive producer Rob Fields, and my composer Ray Mattis, I will talk at you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.